we need each other. Actually, we're better together, but we can get divided. Staying sticky. That's our topic on this episode of the Educators Among Us podcast.
Welcome to the Educators Among Us podcast, where we share motivational messages and inspiring stories for and about educators. Your host, Scott Barron, is author of the critically acclaimed book, Love 'Em and Lead 'Em, and provides powerful insights and wisdom for those who heed the call to teach, coach, lead, and serve at all levels of education.
This is Scott Barron, and I'm very honored to be your host for the Educators Among Us podcast, a program that is designed for those who work in all areas of schools. And sometimes it takes a lot of courage, even some insanity, to do some of the work that we do, but we still love it. We still get the chance to pour into people's lives and get up and do the work and get them through the hard stuff and love them anyway. Love them for their potential, not just their past, right? Love them for what's ahead and not just what's behind. Sometimes we want to kind of whoop them in the behind sometimes, right? Because we want to get them going, but it's part of the journey of just loving people and helping them grow and become the best version of them that they can. And that's the joy of our work with schools is we get to see schools grow and just discover all kinds of things about themselves that they never even knew before, because we get to challenge and hold them to some points of accountability and agreement together and help them grow and achieve their plans and really have the ability to withstand all the stuff that comes with school life. This week we've had a chance to pray with a lot of educators and encourage them through some very significant challenges in their personal lives as well as in their professional lives. As we had, there was a day this week on Monday when, boy, it was just overwhelming. As a matter of fact, on Monday where we were down in Florida working with some folks, they had a tornado. It was just a few miles away. And it came through, and we were woken up early in the morning to our phones going off, a siren saying, "Hey, warning, warning!" And so we, of course, were like, "Okay, is this something that we really have to do something with?" And then we realized, no, this was a real situation. And so we had to go and kind of see what was going on and get to safety. And so that was the morning, really early. And then throughout the day, having a chance to coach and work with different educators around the world and see where they are and just be there for them and equip them through some things and just share some insight and some wisdom. And then by the evening, it was a beautiful sunset. It was the same area, and it was just this remarkable sunset. I actually shared a picture on my LinkedIn profile of this butterfly, this monarch butterfly that had landed on the seagrass nearby. It was just this wonderful orange sunset. So if you have a chance, check that out there. But that's part of the journey, right? Sometimes as we're going different places and see things and see people, and you remember back in the day maybe when you're younger, you might say road trip, right? Road trip. And everyone kind of piles into the car and we take off. We may or may not know where we're going, but we're going to go, right? And the spontaneity of the adventure is so energizing. Like, yeah, let's go, That's kind of that's what we are with sunsets. It's sunset, let's go, right? So anyway, it's something that we love to do, and it's kind of something that bonds us together. Right. And that idea of bonding, or even sticky, right? Being sticky with each other, staying stuck together, regardless of the adventures that we have to navigate. And we know that in school life, it's never ending. I was in a coaching session today where the administrator said, I would love just to have a boring day. Just one. Just one boring day, just to have it where everything goes as planned, and there's nothing that kind of fires up where I have to go and deal with conflict or resolving a question, or just as planned, right? That would be so incredible. But unfortunately, that's not the journey of an educator, or especially of an educated leader of a school, leader. It's going to be full of those adventures, and I love this song, Side by Side. I don't know if you may be familiar with that song, but it was something that we sang a lot as we were, as a family, going down the road. And it goes, we don't know what's coming tomorrow. Maybe it's trouble and sorrow, but we'll travel the road, sharing our load side by side. And the memory of doing that with my parents and my sister, we just had a great time singing that. And so that's kind of like schoolwork, right? It's kind of like school life. Is we're traveling the road, we're sharing the load, we're sticking together side by side. And that we were riding down the road in this wood paneled Dodge Diplomat station wagon. I mean, that's just what we had. And I don't remember wearing seatbelts often because we didn't have to back then. And we would be in the back of the car sleeping sometimes, and suitcases all piled around us. But boy, what an adventure. Road trip, right? Sticking together through hard times and hard conflict requires a deep commitment. It doesn't come casually. We know that requires us to sometimes get through it, get over it, get on with it. There's different elements that come with that stickiness. And sometimes there's a different message, though. I mean, that was one that was important to us growing up, and it's important in school life. But sometimes there's a different message that we hear, right? Popular song lyrics over the last 50 years or so, they tell a different story. It's not about sticking together. It's not about side by side. Instead, it's really us against them. Right? It's this, sometimes it's rooted in generational rebellion or social injustice or even personal alienation, cultural defiance, right? But there's really trying to create a point of conflict rather than connection. And the difference is huge, right? That message gets repeated over and over in different genres of music. They don't get us, right? It's us against them. And that's a pathway that leads to a lot of dysfunctional behavior. Now, here's an example, right? Pink Floyd's song, Another Brick in the Wall. You remember that, right? It's a catchy tune, right? We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. I would love to do that British accent that they were using, right? No dark sarcasm in the classroom. Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone, right? And we can all remember that song. And then, but the idea there, right, is that, hey, we don't need that. And there's obviously some things that happen in different people's lives around schools that, they probably reflect some of that pain and the difficulties here. But we in school life, it is important that we are able to navigate through some of these challenges, right? So in a recent coaching session with a school head, we began to touch on some of this. He shared surprise and even dismay, right? I mean, it was upsetting to him that some of his teachers had concluded that he had forgotten. He didn't get it, but he had been out of the classroom long enough to forget what it's like and the extensive work that's involved, the workload of being in the classroom. He had crossed the line. He had crossed over into administration. Right? And we see different teachers or coaches will make that transition into some different leadership roles, right? And they have to do different things. They have to make decisions, make hard decisions, and sometimes it feels like, well, they've kind of forgotten, they've moved on, and now it's us against them. Right? Now they're on the other side. Well, that's a risky pathway, right? Because, in fact, in this particular situation with this head, he had actually taught alongside these colleagues for years, for several years, and had only recently moved into a full-time supervisory role. Matter of fact, this year, just a few months ago, where he started this, and yet this dividing line had occurred. How had a dividing line emerged so quickly? How did that happen, right? What are the risks, though? What are the risks if we band together against our peers that we actually need in order to thrive, right? We need those relationships. We need to support each other. We need to be there and provide those encouraging words and solve the problems and figure out better ways to teach or to do the job or to coach. Or what happens when we turn on each other, when we're at our best, when we're together, and yet we're in confrontation with each other, right? That's the path that we're talking about. A person of too many friends comes to ruin, says Proverbs 18:24. But there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother, right? That stickiness. When we're separated, when we're vying on opposite sides, trust and growth, they inevitably degrade, right? It goes down. It's hard to keep trusting each other when we're questioning each other's motives, when we're undermining each other with different forms of our words and our behaviors, right? That's when it gets to be a lot less fun in this work. We're just less, right? When we go through those behaviors, we're less. We're less efficient. We're not as good at doing the job. We're less effective. We're less collaborative. We're even less productive. We're less when we choose to be at odds with each other, working together and staying connected. It's just vital to our mission. Sticky teams win, right? Sticky teams win. Because why? Because they feel safe. They're safe to be more vulnerable and honest. They get to constructively navigate conflict. We know that conflict, it comes with the role of educator. We're challenging people to grow. We're helping them overcome some of their mental models and their history and their story and their internal narratives and their possibilities. Right? A cohesive team fully commits, even if some initially disagreed about the decisions and how we got here. There is no blaming each other. There is no sort of throwing each other under the bus, right? We stick together because sticky teams, they win, right? They win because the team's success is prioritized over personal goals and status or even ego. Get sticky. That's the challenge for us. Get sticky this week with your colleagues, with your leadership, with your families, with your students. Get sticky. Stick together, sharing the load as a strand of cords that cannot be easily broken. We're so tied together that we can get through this. We can navigate through some of the things that get really painful. I mean, they get really uncomfortable. And sometimes, again, in being able to be an encouragement to educators, we get to help them through a lot of challenges. And we've had the privilege of praying with some educators these last few weeks where they're going through some extremely difficult situations. And to be able to be an encouragement for them and to stick with them, right? To be a resource or just provide words of encouragement and prayer. That's okay. That's part of us being there with them. And it's a privilege. So the challenge is to stay sticky. And that means getting over it, right? Staying sticky means getting through it together. Staying sticky means getting on with it. That's what we do because we have the courage, because we have the determination to not give up on each other and not to let each other go. Stay sticky. So, a coaching question to ask yourself at the end of each day this week. Did I do my best to get sticky today? Did I do my best to get sticky today? Love him and lead him, my friend. This is Scott.
Thank you for joining us for the Educators Among Us podcast and for your courageous commitment to this noble calling. We get you and the challenges of this work. To stay connected with this community, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and weekly encouragement at educatorsamongus.com.